Oscar Schindler was absolutely correct. He didn't have to wait for 6 million Jews to be killed. He acted immediately when hearing the sort of genocidal talk that he was hearing in those officers' clubs.
And when you say he acted in ways that he had control over, i.e. helping his workers.
Yes, and the Germans and the Americans and the British have control over whether they provide assistance to Israel as it commits its genocide.
I think the point I'd like to make is, 2 points. Number one, to frame this conversation, what is exactly the definition of genocide? Because I think that's being lost. And the second one of which is the UN as a body, a credible body to effectively try Israel, which I would argue it's not. To address the first point first, what is the definition of genocide? Well, as adopted in 1948, the present convention on it effectively says it's about effectively acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, and religious group.
Yes.
So that's the definition of genocide. So the fact that Israel has been hauled in front of this court when at the end of the day it has at no point, notwithstanding the fact that it is fighting a war, notwithstanding the fact there are terrible casualty rates on the Palestinian side as well, and I don't want to downplay that. There are a number of people on that side who are innocent civilians who are caught up in it and were killed, and it's horrible. Wars are, even my own family, I have to say, in World War II, in Europe, were caught up in it. But the bottom line is it comes down to intent. Is there an intent by Israel to wipe out the Palestinian people? And I think the issue for that is, well, firstly, if you look at the population...
Well, again, in part would suffice in law.
In part, but the fact is that even the population statistics doesn't bear this out, because if you look at what the population was in 1950, it was 944,807. And if you look at what the population was in Palestine, or the Palestinian territories in 2024,
I get that.
5,494,000.
I get that. But I would refer you back to what Sir Geoffrey Nice, who perhaps more than you or I knows a great deal about definitions of genocide, given that he prosecuted the case against Slobodan Milosevic. He went through in great detail when I spoke to him just after 2:00, that it can be some or all of those things, and the verbal calling for the end of a people or the removal of a people can amount to genocide as well. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I just think some of the senior Israeli figures who should have more self-control because they're in government have used language that does not help Israel's case.
But I would counter-argue to that at the moment, because for one thing, you've got an awful lot of Arab...
Well, actually, I wouldn't argue. It's just a fact, isn't it? We've heard it. You heard it. I heard it. I know, but would you, for example, acknowledge the fact that countries like Iran have said repeatedly, death to America, death to the UK, and death to Israel? So that is by itself genocide for the first thing.
The thing is, look, the point is, they use the 7th of October as a pretext to commit this mass murder. Even the IDF continuously, they are in cold blood. They're killing people in cold blood. They've lined up people. There's so many. I don't know if you ever watch Al Jazeera 24 hours. It's on 24 hours.
I don't watch it for 24 hours, but I do watch it frequently. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so much war crimes being committed. Like
but Abdullah, you know that Al Jazeera isn't. I mean, it's much of its journalism is good, but it's not entirely an independent news channel either.
Yeah, but that's why the IDF have been killing them over. Killed 100 in the past 3 months. They want to try to stop the people from showing the truth. That's the reality of it. Really, you got to accept that.
I don't have to accept that.
No, you don't have to. Okay, you don't have to accept it. But whatever I say, I mean, you can't defend the indefensible. Like I said, if the tables were turned,
I won't defend the indefensible. I won't defend the indefensible. But you and I, it's possible that you and I disagree on what is defensible, Abdullah, and it's possible that you and I would disagree on what constitutes genocide and what doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to fight you for it, but it is possible that we can calmly disagree on certain things. And we can't forget, and I know you're not forgetting it because you began with it, we can't forget the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza either. And, again, these things have to be investigated fully, but there was the story that ITV showed the other day, 2 days ago, of a man with some of his relatives holding a white flag, trying to get away. They'd been told to move away, and he wanted to go back and collect 2 more relatives, and was standing there with the white flag and was shot in the guts. apparently by IDF. And again, I wasn't there. The reporters seem to think that's where the fire was coming from, or the cameraman who filmed it. And, ultimately, we from watching a television piece, we can't say exactly what's what, but it certainly looked that way. So that's an example, isn't it, of waging war, but waging it badly, if indeed that was the IDF.
Well, I think we have to be very careful about,
as I said, yeah. But that's what I'm saying is that
we have to be very careful.
Yeah. But what's clear is that there is deep Palestinian suffering as well, civilian suffering.
Look, it's very difficult for me to support Israel while seeing what is going on my screens. There's no going away from that. I've got a young child myself. It's heartbreaking. However, we also need to bear in mind that we are dealing with a terrorist organisation. I know that there's a lot of dispute over the categorisation of that, but we are dealing with an organisation that has infiltrated itself at all levels of society.
That still doesn't mean every civilian is responsible, though. Certainly not children. But Holly, thank you. And I think Holly sums it up well, that what's happened here is that the balance has been struck in that Israel has been told, yes, your war is legal, but mind how you enact it, is essentially what the ICJ have said.